Hey, ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice. Hey guys, real quick change here before we get into the interview. We've gotten some feedback that people aren't big fans of the longer introductions, so I'm going to be doing a new intro format, and I'm going to see if you guys like this a little bit better. So today's show features Nina Hirschberger, and you're going to learn more about her in a second, but here are three of the main things we're going to learn about in today's interview. We're going to learn the number one mistake Nina sees that every practice owner make when they start doing direct mail, as well as how you need to fix or avoid it. We're going to talk about the credibility building secret that the youngest dental practice owner in North America did, and how you can do the same to produce the same warm, fuzzy feeling for your patients if you've acquired a practice or are starting a practice. And then finally, we're going to also talk about the $180 million lesson you can take away from the funeral trust business. There's a lot more in this episode, but those are the three highlights. So at the end of this episode, I'm going to let you know where you can go to download the exact piece of direct mail that one dentist mailed to a small 3,000 person list that accounted for over $18,000 in revenue for their practice that Nina has so graciously given to us as a bonus today. So make sure to listen all the way through to the end for that bonus. And so that is today's intro. If you like this intro process better, then go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes and leave me a review if you like this format better. It's really going to help me figure out what you guys like to listen to more than one or the other. So I appreciate you guys giving me the time. Now on to today's guest interview with Nina Hirschberger. Hello, ambitious dentist. Today I have with us Nina Hirschberger. Sorry if I got your last name wrong. Nina is the founder of Megabucks Marketing. She has been involved in the marketing world for many years now, and she has a wealth of experience in marketing in general. So Nina and I were talking about some of the products she offers dentists. We just kind of got into this little discussion about marketing in general for younger dentists, because it is a little bit different than for an we can use the word experienced, but who are we kidding? We're talking about the older dentists that are out there. And the reason it's different is because you have to be able to brand yourself differently. And when we were discussing that, we talked about how, the actual discipline of branding is a little bit different today than it used to be, on what you're trying to create off of that branding. The importances of being able to brand a practice from the beginning, setting up a culture and all these things that honestly a lot of people don't really think about and do intentionally when they're starting a dental practice, because most of our dental practices that we start today are going to be these great clinicians that have had all this clinical training, but they haven't had this marketing training, this business training, and things like that. So I invited Nina on here today to be able to talk to me just about marketing for young dentists, and she graciously decided to come on. So I'm really excited to have you on. Nina, how are you today?
I am terrific. I'm in Northern Indiana. It's a gorgeous day, and I'm honored to be here, Jonathan.
Fantastic. So how did you get involved with the dental industry to start out?
Well, I've got a particular direct mail piece. I probably should just show it to you. Let's see if I can do this right. This is what I call a wallet mailer. And this particular piece, I'm very well known around the world, and called, actually I'm called the wallet mailer lady. And the very first person that I ever did this for was a dentist. This particular one, the sample I've got even, is a $99 new patient special. So from that moment, and that happened in about 2006 when I brought that to the marketplace and started sending them out as direct mail pieces, I just got involved in a lot of dentists' lives, because helping them bring in a new business.
That's great. We have seen some really good campaigns for direct mail for different dentists. We typically see uh, there is somewhat of a hit or miss within direct mail, depending on who you're targeting, what your message is, what your brand's saying, and things like that. Do you have any tidbits of what you've seen work with direct mail versus what doesn't work with direct mail?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The message has to match. I like to give the analogy, if you're selling hearing aids and you've picked a list of 18-year-olds that you're going to send that direct mail to, you're going to get zero response. So you really have to pick the list very, very carefully. You have to match that message to that particular market. And then the number one mistake, if you got all that stuff right, the number one mistake I see anybody, no matter what business they're in, make is they only send one mail piece. It really needs to be a sequence. It needs to be at least 3 pieces and perhaps even more. So send it to a smaller list, but send more pieces frequently. For the young dentist, obviously, my number one marketing strategy for any dentist would be reactivation, would be going back into their customer, their patient base, and trying to bring them in again. Well, a new dentist doesn't have those particular ones to do. So in their particular case, then it's really important that they do some direct mail and they do it properly. So they get that message, they pick a list. Now, lists are never perfect. I'm going to say that right up front too. I don't care if you go USA or you go to any of the list brokers. They're not going to be a perfect list. The only perfect list is your own list that you have sent to frequently because you've cleansed that list. So that's going to be the best. But if you don't have that, then you're going to need to go to a cold list. But that's really important. I mean, I've done some $1 million, believe it or not, $1 million direct mail campaigns. And at the end of this call, Jonathan, I'm going to offer your listeners, I'm going to give you free one of my very best postcard mailings that I did that brought in $18,000 for a dentist. So as a gift to all of your people listening to this, I'm going to tell you how to get that.
That's fantastic. And when I talk to dentists now about the startup practice, a lot of them want to use me for like consulting, advisory services, and things like that. And just because of all the industry knowledge I've gathered and working with so many dentists. And for a lot of startup practices, I tell them, the best financial advice I can probably give you for that is that you're probably not going to need to want to pay me monthly for doing consulting services, because my message is going to be almost without a doubt going to be, well, this month we got to focus on getting new patients. If you're a startup, like scratch practice, if you are an acquisition practice, that's a little bit different. That's kind of getting the reins under control. If you're starting, opening up shop, putting out your shingle, the number one thing that you're responsible for at that point in time, the best use of your mental capacity and your time and your efforts is going to be getting that new patient build up within your practice, making sure that that's aligned with whatever your vision for the practice actually is. Had a great interview with a guy named Jamie Amos, who is a startup practice. I don't like using the word guru, but he is really, really good at helping startup practices get constructed and everything like that. That's actually episode 1 of the Start Your Dental Practice podcast. And we talk a lot about how to, align your vision for the practice along with what your clinical goals are, along with your demographics of where your practice is located. And by doing that, you have an idea of where you're going. If you have a strong marketing message, whether it be through direct mail or networking events or social media, whatever medium you use to cast this message, broadcast your message that you are out there to try and bring the knowledge of your dental practice to as many people as possible. That is your number one goal in the beginning, is to get people in the door so that you can start building that patient base, so that you can in 6 months have a recurring patient coming in for being on the recall system. And then, in a couple of years, if anybody drops off that was originally a new patient, you can hopefully get a reactivation in, like you said, with the direct mail. So let's talk a little bit more about the the mindset, we always talk about in marketing that you have to know, like, and trust someone in order to be able to go and spend money with somebody. So let's kind of bring that whole concept to light here and start with just the no. So you already touched on direct mail as a really great way to get people to know that you are there, because the first step in that, like I said, is to know, and the know, like, and trust. So what are some effective ways to be able to get people to know that your practice exists?
It's a good question. Very good question. Can I just make a couple comments from the segue from the last, the
Sure.
gentleman on the podcast? And I'm sure he probably covered this, but I always say to my coaching clients that there's 5 things in any practice. All 5 senses need to be involved in any practice. So what does your practice smell like? What does it look like? How do I feel when I come in? What do I hear? And is there anything I can touch? I literally have some dental clients who have cookies baking in the back room. So when you come in, it smells like fresh baked cookies. And it doesn't make any sense, but after they got their teeth cleaned, they get a fresh chocolate chip cookie as they're leaving. So that's a real important kind of thing. So when they begin to know you and they come in, you really want all that marketing senses. The other comment I have too that's extremely important is that in the back room, where your office staff is, there needs to be a whiteboard, and there needs to be target numbers. So whatever those numbers are for your practice, that needs to be up in front for everybody, and then set some sort of reward system. Whether you have I've got one insurance client that has one of those game wheels, that they can spin. So they have certain criteria. They have group criteria and they have individual criteria. If you meet those levels, then you can spin the wheel, and there's cash, and there's maybe half day off, or whatever kind of tickets to some kind of something or other. So those are the 2 thoughts that came to my mind when you were saying that. Going back to your question about knowing, obviously, if you bought a practice, if you're new and you bought a practice, then number one thing then has to be reactivation. You have to go back into that database, and very often, no matter what industry you're in, whether it's dental or whether you're an auto repair guy, they frequently do not have a very good handle on their database. It hasn't been well maintained, or it hasn't been well done. So if you're going to do a reactivation to that database, again, I'm saying it needs to be a sequence, but my recommendation is always send a small, little, cheapest you can postcard to cleanse that list. So you're just trying to reach out in the cheapest way you can. That's if you bought a practice. Now, if you're brand new, and you're going to do those direct mail pieces that I talked about, because you've got to do something. Social media, I'm big on social media. I've got a lot of clients that I have social media. I do not have any dental clients that I have social media, because it's kind of a difficult thing. Although there's one very smart dentist that I know who every week he shoots a video, and it's just saying happy birthday to Sue and John and Sandy and whomever. And they have a YouTube channel and they put it up. So that's a very inexpensive. You get a small camera. In fact, Jonathan, you and I didn't talk about this, but I have a list from B&H Photo that I'm happy to give your people. I just ordered another set of it yesterday, and I think it was like $159 or something. It's a microphone, a tripod, and a couple other things that will work with your smartphone that you can use in your office to create those videos that you could put either up on YouTube, or in a business world, one of the best places to go to is Wistia. Wistia is a great place, YouTube or Vimeo, those 3 things, and that's cheap. I'm going to go back to direct mail. Here's another sample. This was a dental sample. This is just a very inexpensive 4-page newsletter. We're going to segue into know, like, and trust. This is beginning to segue into the knowing, but also then the liking, and we can talk about that in a minute.
Sure. So the thing that always happens, whether it be acquisition, what typically happens in acquisition is that, we'll have a client come on, or we'll have a client that has had some type of adjustment to the doctors that are being seen. And the patients that come in, if they have a new doctor that they didn't have beforehand, then that creates a little bit of a friction for a certain percentage of patients, because they came with the understanding they were going to see someone that they already, likely knew, liked, and trust. And so, like what you said about the reactivation, making sure you communicate with people that there's somebody new, that it's going to be known that there's a new practice or new dentist, practitioner, hygienist, whomever it is that's coming in to help out. It's really important to get them, I don't want to say warned, but in a way it's about just letting them know before they show up, so that it's not just a system shock for that those certain numbers of people. Now, at the same time, you don't want to turn people away and say, give them the option to leave if they've been looking at going somewhere else. So obviously it's important to reemphasize that, it's the same great patient care, and all those other elements you talked about that I love will go into making sure that patient stays in that practice. And it's not just the person that they're going to, it's the practice they're going to.
That's interesting, because that happened to me personally. I had a dentist that I had been with probably for 25 years. He's going to retire. He sells his practice to a younger dentist. Mm-hmm. What do? And one of the dental hygienists that I had been going to for years, she decided to go to her other dentist that she was working with. And what did I do? I moved. She retires, and then what happens? I come back. I think the important thing to do, and that goes into some other things that I provide. That new dentist, not only do I have to know that he's going to give me the same care, but why should I connect with him? What is there about him? So one thing that I also do is I have a dental licensing book program. This is a prime example. This happens to be the cover of the one guy, but I just had a dentist a month ago, brand new. In fact, he told me he was the youngest dentist in all of North America. He graduated at the youngest of anybody. So talk about young. I mean, he was real young. Mm-hmm. And so he bought my dental license. So we created the book for him, his name, everything about it. So he wrote the book on dentistry. This is an area exclusive license program. He didn't change. We've already written the book. Now, he could have changed anything in there he wanted, but he didn't. He understood the power of being an author. And so we just printed him as is, created his own cover. And now, because he did buy a practice, now he's the guy who wrote the book. So look at my example. So here's my dentist that was leaving. The new guy, if the new guy had written the book, and they even sent me a postcard, said, here's, Dr. King is now the new guy coming in, and you're going to love him. And by the way, he just published a book. Now begins to be that credibility, that warm, fuzzy feeling. So that's one way we have overcome that particular barrier.
Yeah, and the objections, and I can say this from personal experience, that a lot of the objections that people in my generation will have when they become a business owner is there will be objections on your age at some point. And that will eventually take care of itself, that those people will no longer be able to object. And the reason is they'll say, well, I would like to go to someone that has more experience. You seem like you're kind of young. So I feel like specifically the authoring of the book, and I've got another one here that you've done. If you're listening in, we do have a video element that you can go into YouTube and see these, to be able to actually see these actual books. They're really well done. I really like the way that they're set up. I like the way that you can actually go in and adjust everything if you need to. If you feel like you want the content to be changed in a certain way, if you don't agree with something, it's completely up to the doctor. But it's a really great way to brand and have a license for an authoring of a book, to be able to get that, I guess, past that objection of age. Because yes, there's some people that age you're not going to be able to get past their objection on this. However, there is a certain percentage of people that whenever you have this validation of being an author of a book, you will be able to get past that in its own right. And so I like to see it as a tool to, get past that age objection for our younger docs. It may not work for everybody. It may not be in everyone's wheelhouse based on what their marketing is and things like that. But I definitely think it has its potential for being a really good use for a lot of our docs. So I would definitely put that into the trust segmentation of what we're talking about, the know, like, trust. So we're kind of skipping past that the like area. And I've got a really great podcast with Dr. David Moffat, who's he wrote the book, How to Build Your Dream Dental Practice in Under 90 Days Without Killing Yourself. He's the founder of the Ultimate Patient Experience. Really, really great at designing dental practices. And so if you want to really listen to an hour interview of us just talking about how to get the practice to be set up in a way for people to like going to the practice, listen to that interview. I think it's interview number 4. But speaking back to the conversation at hand, we're talking about we were going through know, like, trust. We've communicated with patients that, through direct mail or social media or some type of way to get out there and let people know that you're there. We have to remember to keep that consistent with our marketing message. We have to remember to keep that consistent with the people that are out there. So let's go back to the know, like, and trust. Is there anything else you want to add to how we can get a young doctor to be known, liked, and trust quickly?
The very, very best way we find to do it is with a newsletter, printed newsletter. So let me give you an example. This one happens to be Dixon Family Dentistry. They collect toys for tots. So there's a picture of Dr. In there with his staff, and they're collecting. We have a Bailey's blog. It's his dog. So we have a blog about the dog, and it's a humorous copy. We have a staff spotlight. If he goes on a vacation, if he does anything. So in other words, in this newsletter, we're not talking about dentistry. Doesn't mean you can't. In fact, I encourage my dentists to put some sort of column in there for their high-end things. So if they do implants, if they do Invisalign, if they do smile makeovers, whatever that is, then always have something in there. So you're always marketing to them, always selling. But we have very interesting kind of articles, all well laid out. And then we create it as a direct, and you don't have to use me, but I'm just showing you an example. So this is a mail piece, and we've actually got a coupon on the front here. Oftentimes we'll put a cartoon. So if they do nothing but read the front, just like a postcard, or they open it up, they begin to know and like them just based on that, because it's not all about dental. I mean, how many times can you talk about flossing teeth or, doing any of that other stuff? Mm-hmm. And we've got a real easy service that helps them do that. But if they do it themselves, and that's the thing, Jonathan, I find most people will not do. And it's the simplest, easiest. You can calculate, depending on the number of people on your list, you can calculate anywhere from, say, 60 cents to $1 a person to send that out. Now, you and I talked the other day, and you said, well, I got somebody's got 10,000 on the list. Well, you don't send them to 10,000. I mean, that's an older dentist, obviously. But if you're a new guy, then one thing you can do is called every door direct. So let's say birds of a feather flock together. Let's say your ideal patient is going to come from 2 neighborhoods within 3 miles of your practice. So you're going to send your direct mail or this newsletter or whatever to just that neighborhood, those 2 neighborhoods. And you can easily do that. Very affordable. And then they begin to know you and stuff. Let me show you another example. This one happened to be that I did for a dentist. We just used a popcorn bag, and in there we were going to give them free tickets. So it was going to be a movie night. Again, we didn't talk about dentistry. It was just, hi, I'm, Dr. So-and-so, and I'd love to give you a free movie night. We're sponsoring, the local theater, and here's the tickets to go there. That same particular doctor, this one brought in $75,000. Now he's been established. He's not new, but a new person could do this also.
Can you scale that out a little bit? You're getting close to camera.
Let's see.
That's
there
good.
we go.
Right there.
All right. So this one, actually, another thing that's my favorite thing to do is get the National Enquirer or one of those kind of magazines, and I get copy ideas, headline ideas, anything from that. Now, this has been a couple years ago, but in this particular case, the copy came at that time. The Batman movie was out. It was around October. And so the whole thing was that he had done a stunning makeover of the Catwoman look-alike. So we had fun with that, and we did a scratch off. So you're always wanting involvement. So there's many fun things you can do with that. Here's another postcard that I did for a client. This one happened to be a pediatric dentist out in California, and we made it look like it was coming from a child because it was a pediatric dentist. Mm-hmm. Again, if you're new, you've got to use personality. You've got to have fun. You got to, like, why would I go to this guy? I mean, wow, this guy really is interesting. He does fun things, and because I was born before dirt was invented. I'm older than dirt. I can say this. I know younger dentists, they actually know the newer techniques, the newer technology, the newer things. So capitalize on those kind of things. Why being younger actually is your advantage.
I completely agree with that. And the reason I see a lot of marketing campaigns fail, I personally believe, is because the business doing the marketing didn't wholeheartedly agree with the message. And that resonates with what the owner feels as their message. So I had a really good interview with Dr. Maloli, and he talked about how he lives in a resort community in Vail, very high end area. And he did his first direct mail. He was a student of marketing, and he thought, he was turned on to Dane Kennedy and all these other things, and said, I'm going to crush it with this direct mail piece I'm going to send out. And he tells this really great story about how he sent all of this mail out to all of these communities and things like that. And he said he went to go pick up his mail that day from the post office. And as he was walking in, he realized, I live in a resort community. Everybody has a P.O. box, not a home address. And so he said he walked in, and literally his entire campaign was just strewn about the floor. The trash cans were overflowing with his marketing pieces that he'd sent out. I spent all this time and energy crafting and everything like that. It was because he wasn't really, he may have done a good job of crafting a message, but he didn't think about who was actually going to be receiving it.
Goes to my hearing aids with the 18-year-olds. Absolutely.
Exactly. So that's one of not understanding where it's going to. But the other side of that coin is making sure that whenever you're sending it, you believe in it. It's showing your personality, because I'll tell you, consistency is a big, big thing in marketing, is being consistent. I mean, I don't come on in the suit and tie to my interviews because I'm not the suit and tie guy. I'm a CPA. When I talk to my clients, I'm very casual. I'm very good friends with all of my clients. I don't hide that, and that's just not me. If you're wanting the CPA that's just talking about taxes and not going to give you their opinion, that's not me. And so I try to make sure that is, broadcasted out, because ultimately what will happen is if you send the wrong marketing message to somebody and they come into your practice, there's going to be a little bit of a confusion or disassociation with what they're receiving versus what they, originally thought they were buying. And so the big picture of that is for the people that are listening, and make sure that if you are going to do a marketing piece, make sure that it's consistent with what you're wanting to go about. If you're in an area that's like a resort community, remember who you're looking into. If you're a person, for example, that's in a big mountain climbing community, that there's a bunch of mountain climbers in your area, use that in your marketing message if that's what you love to do. Because if you love to do it and you send out a marketing message that correlates with that, and there's enough people to be able to see that, you're going to resonate with those people. They're going to come to your practice, and those are going to be your people. Like you said,
yeah, you can even do the headline, the dentist to market to mountain climbers.
Exactly.
It's a good point.
Mm-hmm. And so all of these things are to remember to be consistent with these areas. So so we've talked about know, like, and trust. What would you say to people? So there's a certain, especially in my generation, there's a certain stigma about, number one, direct mail, I think is starting to get a little, there's a lot of data to show that direct mail is still the best way to do it. I love the patient newsletter ideas, to be able to continue to grow a relationship with a patient when maybe they're not in for their recall, to show them what's going on with you and things like that. But what would you say to people that feel like direct mail may not be for them?
Well, they all want to do it cheap. They all want to do emails. They all want to do social media. Mm-hmm. And those are just different medias. But bottom line is, I don't know about you, but a lot of my stuff goes into spam. I know for a fact that every single person in America has a mailbox of some sort, whether it's a post office box, whether it's on their house, whether it's out by the street, whatever. And every single one of us go to that mailbox. If we don't go daily, we certainly go very frequently. And the thing we do is we look to see what's interesting that we want. And we love mail. I don't care if you are 7 years old, 20 years old, 35 years old, or you're 70 years old. People love mail. So the message is don't be cheap, but just whittle the list down. Can you do social media? Obviously. Can you Twitter? That could eat up a time. I have a client though. It's a bariatric surgeon who is amazing with social media. So it's possible. So if you're doing smile makeovers, befores and afters, that works very, very well with that. Now, Facebook, you could do Facebook ads, but you can't do a before and after with Facebook ads. Mm-hmm. So you could do some kind of things like that. But, LinkedIn could be something that your new people could really get into also. But the one thing I want to say is pick something in your personality. So the bariatric surgeon I just told you about, he's a competitive bike rider. So, you could even in your dental practice, if you were a bike rider, if you were a horse person, whatever you were, I had a cosmetic surgeon that owned a plane. We used those pictures in his office and, because everybody assumes you went to school. Everybody assumes you got a degree. It's assumed you're going to be okay at doing it. But so now bring your personality out. What is it you like? And they could start asking you, well, tell me, how did you get into bike riding? And how many bikes do you got? And, you could just have fun. I will tell you, Jonathan, whether you do anything or not, the number one most liked column on my newsletter is the dog blog. I have hired this humor writer. Writing humor is a very difficult thing. This guy's been writing for me for, I think, about 5 or 6 years. Every month he writes a dog blog. So people can actually even just get that blog and put it someplace if they wanted to do that. But again, so the dog, if you don't have anything else, if you're not a bike rider, but you have a dog, then create the persona, create the personality with the dog. And, the dog can fall in love with the poodle next door. The dog can run for president and say things that other people can't. The dog can do all sorts of things, can go to the Olympics, can go all sorts of places, and be the night manager at the dental office. So there's a real creative thing that can come out of that. And you might actually have some person in your office who loves to write, and they could be the voice of the dog.
That's great. Yeah. And, like you said, the birds of a feather flock together. The people that are going to be interested in reading about dogs are going to be the people that have dogs. And if you have a dog and you're a dog person, which a lot of us are, you're going to be more likely to have your eye be caught by something like that, to give it the 5 seconds to 30 seconds to read it, and then, store it away. And that's just one more notch of getting to be sure that you're either known or liked, when we talk about that know, like, trust factor. So let's talk a bit about what you feel are some of the mistakes that are made in today's in marketing messages through direct mail. Tell me something that you've seen come into your mailbox that you're just like, why in the world did they do this?
Save your money. Well, first, the number one mistake is they don't do anything. That's the number one mistake. The number two mistake is they think one piece is going to do it for them. So it's one and done, just like you're talking about that guy in the resort area. He thought that one postcard or the one thing was going to do it. The list, they picked the wrong list. And it's inconsistency. It's consistency over a period of time, which is the secret. As long as your message is matching that list, is matching that market. So just doing it consistently. One of my good friends, Dr. Greg Nielsen, I don't know, you talked about Dan Kennedy a few minutes ago. I don't know if you know Dr. Greg Nielsen. He's a chiropractor. He's been in chiropractic for about 25, 30 years, and he met Dan when he first got out of chiropractic school. So just like your dentist, whether they're buying a practice or whether they're just getting out. And the one thing Dan said to him is printed newsletter, printed newsletter. 25 years later, he's still sending a printed newsletter every other month. So he sends the newsletter, a 4-page newsletter one month, postcard the next month. 4-page newsletter one month, postcard the next month. 25 years later, he's in a town of 2,400. Other chiropractors have tried coming in. They can never make it. He owns the town. He works 20 hours a week and makes a 6-figure income. So it's consistency over a period of time. Now, let me tell you another thing he does. He frames every one of those newsletters. Mm-hmm. So on the front of his newsletter, he gets one of his patients and he creates a celebrity out of them. He crafts some goofy story about them, that they were like maybe the hand model or, you know, some goofy story. And then he frames all of those. So if you were going to his office, his 25 years of newsletters are framed all over that office. And then his patients say, well, how can I get in that newsletter? And so then again, there's a point to talk about at that point.
Very interesting. So, okay, so those are some of the mistakes that people are making and how they're being, and some with the counter to that of how they made that successful. What are some of the ways that you've seen your clients be the most successful?
All right. I'm also going to show you a piece that we do. It's called a magazine tear sheet. So I don't know.
Pan out a little bit for that.
Let's see about like that. Okay, yep. So I've got some samples. This particular dentist, it's all about smile makeover. This particular dentist has, what is it called? True Denta, I think it is. It's for headaches. So okay. This magazine piece is talking about that particular thing. This particular dentist is actually, this piece is focused on other dentists and helping them speed up their practice. This is the guy who works with the pediatrics. But the reason I'm showing you this is this piece right here. Let me back out. Mm-hmm. Actually, we've got about 10 minutes, and I got to be off this call because I'm going to be interviewing this guy. I did this magazine. He's in the funeral trust business, and this is, I know he's not in the dental business, but it's very important. This guy, this is the third iteration of this piece that I did for him. First one was about 2008. We have printed 12,000 of these for him. That one piece has been responsible for $180 million in his business.
Did you say 180 million?
$180 million.
So 18% of $1 billion.
Exactly. And it's because he's not only was, we're going to actually be doing a book, so he'll be the authority, but this makes him the celebrity. And he uses it in everything. So in your case, a dentist, let's talk about, they're going to do a implant case. And we know implants cost more money. So before you get them in, they should be putting together a package that they send to that patient so they get to know, like, and trust them before they even walk into the practice. They could have a copy of their book. They can have a copy of their magazine piece. And combining a lot of those pieces is the power of doing it all. But this one piece, and when you ask me what's the number one thing, that's the thing that came to mind immediately.
Yeah. So he's using the celebrity piece, and there's got to be he sends that out. What happens after someone sees this? Is this just a validation technique for validating the trust that they should be putting into this person, or how is that being used in his entire message? Because it's not just.
Yeah, the beauty of that is that I'm going to get all those details in about 10 minutes. I don't know 100% of those details, but I will tell you what I do know. He does a lot of speaking. Your
Mhm.
dentist, if you're talking about implants, you're talking about, there's speaking opportunities for them.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
he lays one of these on every one of their chairs whenever he's speaking. He puts it in any package he sends out to anybody. He's got, we give him a 3D version of what it looks like, and he puts that in his social media. This is just coming out. In his case, we actually date it.
Hmm.
We put actually what's called this UPC code. So it really, really does look like a magazine piece. And it's written by my magazine writer. What he told me also is he will even quote from this. So as read or as seen in today's insurance times. So even though this is a piece we put together for him, he'll even quote from that. He uses it in everything. And that's all I can, I'll know more details in 10 minutes.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. We touched on this before the call. You have a connection with, if someone in the dental industry, for whatever reason, has, maybe they've heard Megabex Marketing, but they haven't heard maybe your name specifically. They'll probably have heard this name. That's Jerry Jones.
Yes.
How do you know Jerry?
Jerry and I go back a long way. Jerry is a Dan Kennedy kind of person also. And I first met Dan back in 1994. Remember, I'm as old as dirt, so 1994. And because of my wallet mailer, I'm known around the world, particularly in that Glazer Kennedy world. So Jerry and I partnered a few months ago, and I helped him put together a book. Now, he wrote most of that, although he has other dentists and other people in this book who gave their time-tested secrets. I happen to talk about books in there and what that does, but you can go on Amazon and search for Jerry Jones and you'll find that book. But we got together through Dan Kennedy years ago.
Fantastic. Yeah. So he's a very well respected person in the dental marketing space. That's fantastic. So let me ask you one last question, and then we're going to end the call. And that would be, if let's pretend that for a second you are a dental practice or a dentist, and you were going to open up a dental practice down the street, do a startup, we're going to say. What would be the first marketing thing you did in that practice?
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to give away. Exact thing. So here it is. This is a simple yellow postcard. If you can see what I'm holding up, it looks like a prescription pad. And so whatever special offer you're going to do, this particular one was a $99 new patient special. I've had some clients who do a $1 new patients, but whatever it is, most clients want you to pay something but then you show the value. And then on the back of it, it was a very soft sell. In this particular case with this new dentist, the headline said, "Finally, a dental office that caters to cowards." She did sedation dentistry. So what we did is we picked one thing that made them unique, one thing they were particularly good at, one thing that was, and we sent this. One thing you asked me about, one of the biggest mistakes two people would make if they send direct mail is they like to use indicias or they like to pre-sort. I've never
Can you explain what those two things are?
Yeah, so instead of a live 49-cent or whatever the current postage rate is, they're going to pre-sort and they're going to get it cheaper. That screams junk mail. That screams you're not worth it. You're not worth even a live stamp. So I always encourage people to put a live stamp. This is one of the very few exceptions. I do have, and it's right up in this area, right up here, I do have what's called an indicia. So it is a pre-sort. And the reason is, this is actually a postcard. And so they it's right there in front of them and they can open it. If you do the calculations, and you're a math person, Jonathan, the difference between pre-sort and a live stamp is usually very negligible because you're not going to do a lot. So I would still, in this case, put a live stamp on there. So the offer that I'm giving, and I'm still looking at my time here, excuse me, the offer I'm going to give you, I'm going to give anybody that wants to go to, what did I write? Yellow Dental Postcard, yellowdentalpostcard.com. I'm going to send you the Word document. You can edit it. You can change it. You can, steal it, whatever it is you want to do with it. I'll send you that a Word document that they can do, and that can be the very first thing they send out.
Fantastic. So we've talked about how to get through no like and trust. We've talked about what you've seen be mistakes in direct mail, what you've seen successes in direct mail, and other really interesting creative marketing brands and ideas that, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot about. I've seen where people have used them before, but I never really knew where they came from. So thank you so much for your time. Especially thank you for the offer at yellowdentalpostcard.com. That's going to be a really great resource for people out there to be able to, really incorporate everything we talked about in this interview. So thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to get a hold of me, the easiest way is just to email me. I don't take calls very often, but I will respond usually within 24 hours of an email. Mm-hmm. So if it's okay, Jonathan, I can give them my email address. Yeah. So it's Nina, Nina, at megabucksmarketing.com. So if there's any questions I can answer of any of your people, I'd be happy to do that. Just be patient with me if I don't get right back to you. But in the meantime, go get that yellow dental postcard and start using it.
Absolutely. And I urge everyone listening to reach out to Nina and just say thank you for giving us the time. So anyway, that's it for today. So thanks so much, Nina.
Thanks.
A special thanks to Nina for coming on the show with us today. As you heard, Nina has a genius mind and an incredible amount of experience when it comes to marketing in the dental industry with direct mail. So Nina mentioned a simple yellow postcard one of her dental clients mailed to a list of just 3,000 people that brought in an additional $18,000 in revenue. So if you want the exact copy and template she used free of charge to do whatever you want with, then text practice to 33444. Again, that's practice to 33444, or visit startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you like the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.